What's up everybody, it's Mike here with Padbangers.com today with a new app check, and today we're checking out a really nice tool, the Modulation Processor 3244, that will give you a lot more modulation sources for your external hardware, your CV gear, or your internal plugins. Let's do this. Okay, so what is the Modulation Processor 3244? Well, first of all, you can get it on Dialogaudio.com. The price is $50 as an introduction offer, and later on it will be $65. And what it can do for you is it's a really nice tool that gives you a lot of modulation sources like LFOs and envelope generators, VCAs and slope generators. That you can route to your existing hardware synthesizers via MIDI CC and SysX. You can use it with your CV gear if your audio interface is DC coupled and allows you to send out really high voltages. But you can also use it inside of your DAW with your existing plugins to modulate synthesizers or to affect dry-wet knobs on an audio effect or whatever it is. As long as it's MIDI mappable, you can use the modulation processor to modulate it. So let's switch over to Ableton and I give you a demo of how I use it and how to set it up. It's actually really easy. And in this demo, I'm going to use it with the Waldorf StrikeFed, which is like the perfect example for this plugin because it doesn't offer a lot of modulation here. The only thing it has is two very simple AD or AR envelope generators, as well as this animate effect, which is like an LFO that blends through the different string registrations. But that's it. I can't modulate the solo section, I can't modulate the tremolo, I can't modulate the balance. So that's where the Modulation Processor plugin comes in very handy. Let me give you some examples here. So first of all, I dialed down all the effects here, so we have a very raw signal. And I'm gonna set this up real quick. So I'm gonna load up an external instrument here. And I route this to the StrikeFed, and my audio is coming from channel 5.6. Here we have it. And then we need another MIDI track. And to make the envelope generators work, so they get a trigger signal from the MIDI, we need to make it receive MIDI from the StrikeFed track, not the MIDI device. It's actually the MIDI track here. Okay, so that's good. And then all we need left is to load up the plugin here. And here we have it. So as you can see, it's a very simple interface, and my only con here is it's another really tiny interface and there's no way to scale it up. So you have to live with the tiny lettering on there. That's really my only con with this tool. It's very tiny, especially when you route it to your external synthesizers and then you walk around the studio and play them and you look on the screen. It's so hard to read, especially on this high resolution displays we nowadays have. So yeah, if there will be an update in the future, I really hope they redo the interface. I like the knobs and the colors, that's all fine, but please make it scalable or make it at least bigger. Alright, but now let's get to the tool itself. On the upper section you have 3 LFOs that are tempo syncable. You have different waveforms, your basic waveforms like sine, square, so up, so down. But you also have 10 slots for waveforms that you can draw in the wave editor down here. You also have slopes for up and down, and slopes are very basic envelopes that just go from 0 to full amount or from full amount to 0 and stay there until they get another trigger, and then they start over at the top or the bottom again, depending on what setting you're using here. These slopes can be exponential or linear. Same goes for the ADs or envelopes. These are pretty basic. They can be tempo synced, or you can keep them in free running mode, and you can also set these up in exponential or linear mode. Then you have the oscilloscope here. You already see the LFO running. And oh yeah, here on the left side you have MIDI in, so you can use velocity as a trigger for your modulators, and you also have 2 free assignable MIDI CC nodes that you can use to trigger the stuff right here. And down on the bottom you have your VCAs. those have attenuators for 2 input signals plus an additional control setting. You have a gain knob where you can boost or decrease the initial signal. You have the data out, which is either the MIDI CC or SysX to send out to your synthesizer, or you can use it with audio CV. In my case, it's turned off. You have to manually turn it on. If you have a DC coupled audio interface, do not turn it on if you don't have one, because these high voltages can really damage your gear. So only turn this on if you're very sure your audio interface can handle these high voltages. And down here you select your device. So in my case, this goes to the StrikeFET on channel 1. And as you can see now, the StrikeFET is already receiving the LFO MIDI here. Okay, so let's start and tweak some sounds. First of all, let me disable the LFO right here because I want to show you the raw sound and how it sounds like. So let's check this out. So let's use some LFOs to modulate the balance and the solo registration right here. Let's start off by bringing in back a little bit of reverb so it's not too dry. Yeah, that's better. So let's connect the first LFO right here. And let's choose this one as a square wave. So I want to modulate the balance knob here. So I got these like a little trigger effect. So what I need now is I need to know the MIDI CC number of the balance. And you find these numbers usually in your manual, or usually the manufacturers provide another sheet called the MIDI implementation chart where you can find all these numbers. I looked mine already up. So balance knob here is number 82. So I'm gonna select this here in the data out of the VCA. Okay, and now let's hear what happens when we play back. So yeah, this already works very nice. And again, this is something I couldn't achieve on the StrikeFET itself because it has no LFO that is routable to the balance knob. Let's make this even a little bit wilder and let's slow this a little bit down, but let's use another LFO to modulate the first LFO. We can also do this by using the output of the second LFO back into LFO 1 and use the FM input attenuator to dial this in a little bit. And as you can see, it already affects the width of the LFO. That makes it a little bit more interesting. So let's use the second LFO to modulate and blend through the solo section here. And I can't remember the MIDI CC, so I have to look it up real quick. Tone is number 76. So we use the second output here, number 76. And we use the second LFO. Keep this on a very slow tempo as a sine wave so it smoothly blends through this. And we should dial in this a little bit. And we can also turn on the second LFO, now the second VCA here in the section. And let's boost the signal a little bit. So this sounds also very nice. And let's use maybe an envelope generator now to modify the reverb tail or the depth function of the StrikeFET. So we look this up real quick. Reverb effects amount is number 94. Use a third VCA output. 94. And now let's use an envelope generator here. And let's turn this one on real quick. Full amount. And I want the tail to start a little bit later. Maybe we shouldn't sync it and make it only maybe a release of 1.5 seconds. This one also be shorter and longer attack. So the reverb comes in over time. Very easy to set up with the envelope generators here. And you can also do some wilder stuff. Let's say we use this LFO here and use this as a second input for the envelope generator, so we can boost it up a little bit more. Let's make this a little faster. And you get kind of a stutter effect then. That's actually the stuff you can do with the modulation processor, and of course, you can do really crazy modulation here with the FM inputs and the routing different sources into one VCA. So you can have really wild modulations, but you can also do it very, very gentle to spice things up. So yeah, that's it for me from this time. It's Dialogaudio Modulation Processor 3244. You can get it on Dialogaudio.com. Introduction price is still at $50, so go and get it now if you're interested in it. Later on the price will be $65. I really like the plugin, especially for tools like the StrikeFat that lack of a lot of modulations, and so you can really easy dial in the modulations, and it's really what you see is what you get experience here with the built-in oscilloscope. It makes it really easy to understand what's going on. Yeah, I really like it. So go to the website, download the trial version, check it out yourself, and let me know in the comments what you think about the plugin. That's it for this time. Mike, Padbangers.com. Peace out.